man with the pointy ears and the black rubber suit. Batman?
Batman.
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 The year is 2015, summertime, shortly after my birthday. I sit in a room peering into a box filled with old and used comic books, a gift from a longtime friend of mine. My exposure to superhero stories were mainly through movies, video games, and the occasional animated series. Comic books as a medium were a whole new territory for me. Looking back, I never did read much what was in that box, except for one story. A run of comics laid in that box that I did end up reading, due to me being a longtime Batman fan. That story was Death of the Family, illustrated by Greg Capullo and written by Scott Snyder, no relation. This was a shocking, chilling narrative about the relationship between the Joker and Batman, who they are as people and how their never-ending struggle has brought them to this point. It's haunting, it's grotesque, it's incredibly engaging. It opened my eyes to what comics could offer, even as someone who mainly read manga. But outside of getting me to watch videos about comic books on YouTube from creators like Comics Explained, I wouldn't be inspired enough to dive into Batman comics or comics as a medium until exactly 10 years later, when DC would be releasing issues of a brand new run of stories that would take the world by storm. And at the helm of this takeover is the writer who brought me my first comic, Scott Snyder, and his take on the Batman mythos is what I believe has already become a true masterpiece: Absolute Batman. Absolute Batman is amazing. It's a gritty, brutal, and heroic reimagining of Batman in his crusade to save the city he loves from the monsters that seek to claim its spirit. And when I say monsters, I mean monsters. Written by Scott Snyder, no relation, and illustrated by Nick Dragotta. The story takes place in an alternate universe where the balance of good and evil, as we know it from the mainline universe, has been reversed. The Absolute line itself can be complex, and I would love to get into the weeds of it someday, but to keep it simple for now, Darkseid got bullied too many times by the Justice League and created a universe that places our heroes at a massive disadvantage against the evils of the world. The narrative purpose of these runs is to break down characters we've come to know and reimagine them for a modern context. You take core elements of their origin and tweak them, allowing what makes these characters who they are shine through. Clark Kent isn't raised on Earth, but arrives later as a young, disillusioned teen. Diana, better known as Wonder Woman, is taken from Themyscira as a baby and raised in Hell. And in our billionaire orphan Bruce Wayne's case, his parents are no longer members of Gotham's elite. And instead of both of them being murdered in cold blood, only Thomas Wayne meets his fate during a mass shooting on a school field trip. It's a significant change to Bruce's mythos, and it sends massive ripple effects throughout the story. His journey to become Batman is transformed, and his connection to the city he swore to protect is completely recontextualized. Bruce faces darker versions of his villains, all while having fewer resources than ever before. And yet, he still finds a way to persevere through brute force and an iron will. Bruce is younger, more aggressive, angrier, less experienced, but just as capable to be the Caped Crusader. We're here in this version of Gotham City to answer one question: who is Bruce Wayne and why does he fight? But the series transcends the narrative itself. Absolute Batman has become a cultural phenomenon, opening up new readers to the world of comic books in ways we haven't seen in a long time, myself included, for reasons you might not expect. It's clear on the page and from the creators themselves that manga has played a huge role in how DC is approaching a whole new generation of readers. The influences are everywhere, from subtle inspiration to full-on homage. What we are witnessing is a whole new era for comics. Incredibly talented creatives bringing in a host of influences with a deep reverence for the source material, all while responding to a creative landscape where manga and comics are sharing the global stage. And at the center of that whirlwind is Absolute Batman. It's been reported that the Absolute run collectively has pulled in over 12 million units sold in 2025, with Absolute Batman pulling in 300,000 pre-orders per issue per month. This run is badass. It's energetic, it's thrilling, it's horrific, it's status quo breaking. It's everything I want in a Batman story, and I want to analyze it all. The best way to do that is to dive into the story itself. With 19 issues currently released, we have a lot of incredible story to sift through. So let's begin with issue 1, the Zoo Arc.
Party animal gang slaughters 9 in brutal attack, including
two police officers.
The opening act to Absolute Batman behaves as the origin for this version of Bruce as Batman, presented through his war against a gang run by Roman Sionis, or better known as Black Mask. Gotham is a city on fire, as the party animals terrorize its citizens, and it's up to a young, aggressive Bruce to bring them down. Issue 1 pays homage to the Year 1 Batman issues of Frank Miller, but instead of following Jim Gordon, it's Alfred who has returned to Gotham on a mission as he details his previous experiences with the city he knows well. Page 1 also reminds me of the opening section of Matt Reeves' The Batman, as Alfred rides through the city streets on a motorbike. While reading, I did have the Batman score playing, and boy does it make an incredible difference. Unlike his mainline Butler counterpart, this version of Alfred is a grizzled mercenary. He's cynical, methodical, and here to collect data on the party animals' activity for MI6. What they want with this information is unclear, but on the night the party animal gang were about to make their move on a town hall meeting led by Gotham City Mayor Jim Gordon, Old Man Pennyworth got the data he was looking for as the Batman made his appearance. Absolute Bruce definitely has my favorite introduction in the story so far, where the juxtaposed framing and the gym scene where who you first think is our regular lean boy Bruce is then overshadowed by the real star of the show. Absolute Bruce Wayne is a hulking, towering 6'9", 420-pound tank with a batsuit designed around ultimate utility. His moves and tactics are less refined as Brat proper, but he's more resourceful, using everything and anything to his advantage. I mean, if turning the bat symbol on his chest into an axe isn't resourceful, I don't know what is. But Mr. Star, doesn't Batterson have a batarang in his chest? It's not an axe, bro. It's not an axe. As stated earlier, this is a Bruce removed from the context of a wealthy Gothamite, no longer connected to the city by a lineage of Waynes that run it. He grew up on the streets of Crime Alley with the likes of Waylon Jones, Selena Kyle, and others who would normally be part of his rogues gallery. He doesn't need a big tower with his name on it to know where he belongs and what he should fight for. These streets raised him, and he spent his formative years learning everything he can so that he can protect it in his late father's honor. After making short work of the party animal gang, Bruce and Alfred have a brief exchange that turns into a game of cat and mouse. But this is where Alfred quickly learns he never had the upper hand to begin with. I really enjoyed the dynamic between these two. It gives tired older brother and erratic little brother vibes. Bruce doesn't seem to have a strong connection to this Alfred just yet. This version of Pennyworth being very prickly, he's not as warm as we've come to know him to be. But as they spend time together, Alfred begins to believe in what Bruce is trying to do. He forms a kinship with Bruce, seeing him as a fellow crusader fighting a fight that pushes their loved ones away, often trying to give Bruce words of advice on how to survive the life they lead, but he is consistently reminded that this kid is built different. What kind of psycho steals another man's gun, modifies it to shoot little bats, steals that same dude's bike, then rides it off the top of a skyscraper? Absolute Batman, that's who. He's so fucking cool! Combined with the fact that Nick Dragotta's artwork is phenomenal. There are other great artists who work on this project, but Nick is such a master of spectacle and wow factor. His paneling has an addictive flow to them, and his double page spreads hit like a train. His designs for every character in the series? Fire. Especially when it comes to Bruce. In issue 1 of Comics Magazine, there is an interview with the Absolute Batman creative team titled How to Make Absolute Batman. Not only did it have sketch designs for the Batsuit by Nick Dragotta himself, it also has some fascinating quotables about the creative process and philosophies around a lot of the creative decisions for the story. It's an amazing read, and I will be going through it a little more later down the line, but some of my favorite moments are when they're discussing the influences and creative process for coming up with the style for Absolute Batman, especially when Scott talks about working with Nick.
Add in this insane kineticism that echoes the manga influences that you see in his action sequences, the line work, and the speed and acrobatic nature of the paneling. All of it feels like these two extremes: grounded, emotional, gritty storytelling, and then the explosively over-the-top, imaginative, creative bursts of energy. Nick was just the perfect choice, in my mind, for that tonality.
The rule of cool isn't something to shy away from, and you can see that in the design choices for the Batsuit in this universe. The overall thesis is the pursuit to build a bigger and better Batman that is conducive to a modern take on the mythos, to make a Bruce that works best in the current world we live in and inspire the new generation the way he did in the days of old. This commentary stretches far, especially when you think about it in the context of the current state of comics, but it also works as a narrative framing for the Zoo arc as a whole. Issues 4 and 5 back-to-back are perfect illustrations of this point. Issue 4 details Bruce's journey during his early years as Batman, discovering what the idea of Batman means to him and how to make it work for his battles against the criminal and corrupt element in Gotham. I enjoy seeing the different stages of the Batsuit, first starting out heavy on the horror aspect, which ends up being too theatrical and ineffective, then turning to a more traditional look, more tactical, yet still too rigid, then finally landing on a mix of the two. Bruce realizes through memories of conversations he used to have with his father, right up until the shooting, about needing to be adaptable in order to be the best for the people who need you. Narratively, it's some of Scott's best work. I especially like the line from Thomas Wayne about how he almost became a heart surgeon, but decided against it when he had Bruce. It's a beautiful metaphor on why Absolute Batman needs to exist in the modern day. Then in issue 5, we return to the present as Bruce faces the offer presented to him by Black Mask. All the money he could ask for so that he can become the Batman he dreams of being, having the ability to build a better Batman, comparable to the one from the mainline universe, all for the low price of looking the other way while the party animals wreak havoc. Such a great commentary on the sickening nature of capitalism, using the promise of capital obtained through the suffering of others to force the less fortunate into compromising their morals for personal gain. Sionis is really fun and how detestable he is, while mainly being a vessel for the concepts Bruce is fighting at the heart of this story. His speech about the people of Gotham needing to accept that their lives have already been bought and sold, and they should simply lie down as his goons start their purge-style murder spree, is chilling in how close to home it hits. He is wealth, he is greed, he is the decadence of Gotham that Bruce now stands against. Another parallel of Frank Miller's Year One issue, but now Bruce doesn't need to enter. He can't, because he doesn't want to change things from within the system. He wants to burn it all down. Their final confrontation on Black Mask's yacht is brutal. This version of Bruce loves the violence and can't help but show it in some of the funniest and shocking ways I've ever seen. With the help of his friends, Bruce is able to bring an end to Sionis' game, exclaiming that no matter how difficult, no matter how big, no matter how formidable the foe is, Bruce is ready to take it on and bring them down to his level. But as anyone who has read this story knows, this was just the beginning.
Reports that a wanton criminal is hijacking our news feed. We have a direct quote from Mayor Hill. He says, "My fellow Gothamites, I implore you not to listen to a word this masked lunatic—"
Shut up.
When it comes to long-running story structure, one thing I adore is when the narrative is able to connect its arcs in perfect sync. Every new event is directly informed by the previous. Series like Naruto and Jujutsu Kaisen come to mind, and Absolute Batman joins that list. The following arc explores Bruce's relationship with the supporting cast and how his actions have direct consequences for those relationships. Beating Sionis and revealing to his friends that he's Batman set in motion a force of destruction he was not ready for. As I said earlier, the redesigns for many classic characters hit hard in Absolute Batman, and every new design is better than the last. So far, I've talked at length about Bruce and the Batsuit, but all the other changes cannot be slept on, especially the villains. All of Batman's villains have been reimagined, and some of them are the most grotesque and terrifying monsters I've ever seen. With Sionis, you had his big void of a dome skull, reflective of a black mirror peering back at society, along with his, squid family? People? Like, is that his son? Followed by Victor Freeze, the son of Arctic researchers that was put on ice then revived in an attempt to cure him from a rare disease, but instead turned him into a Nosferatu horror beast that haunts my nightmares. Yeah, Bruce, I'd get out of there too if I were you. What I appreciate about these changes is that they aren't simply superficial to make these characters look cool. There is intent behind how these characters are positioned in this world and how they are changed. The Abomination arc will set the stage for the changes these characters in Bruce's life will undergo. Following the mysterious kidnapping of Waylon Jones, Bruce investigates a black site off the coast of Gotham City known as Arc M. What he thinks is a rescue mission turns into a fight to escape a prison from hell, the moment he comes face to face with Bane. If you thought Bruce was big, this guy takes the cake. My first impression to Bane was through the Arkham Asylum video game, which painted him as a simple-minded ball of destruction that would become more belligerent as he used venom to increase his strength. Since then, I've become aware of his lore and varied depictions through other comics and media, but I can't say I'm that well versed on the character. But what I can say is that this guy kicks ass in more ways than one. Where Black Mask behaved more as a stand-in for the forces of decadence that Batman will be fighting against, Bane is allowed to be a whole character in himself, while also being a mirror for what Bruce could turn into if he allowed his darker urges to take over. Issue 11, one of my personal favorites, illustrates the origins of this version of Bane, which paints him in a tragic light, brought up in nothing but pain and suffering and war. Ideas of revolution, freedom, and leadership muddied by the horrors of subjugation. A young man built for conflict was poached by a mysterious individual to become his weapon of conquest. That man they call the Joker. Now, the keen-eyed viewer may have noticed I've been suspiciously leaving out this version of the Joker so far, though he's made a few appearances through the story up to this point. And don't you worry your pretty little head. I'ma get to it. I'm gonna talk about this demon very soon. Bane's plan here is to break Batman's spirit, while experimenting and preparing his body for months so he can turn him into a weapon of carnage to take Bane's place. Bruce will attempt to break free time and time again, using everything he can at his disposal, like hiding tiny pieces of metal and tools in his skin that the doctors would end up confiscating. You know, except for the one he hid in his fucking gums. This dude is like out of his mind, man. During his escaped attempt, you will notice other experiments with names related to members of Batman's rogues gallery. Oh boy, Poison Ivy. I sure hope she looks like how she does in the Arkham games, and not like a Resident Evil boss who wants to plant maggots in my eyelids. Once it finally seems like Bruce has lost all will to fight, his final test is to see whether or not he will reject the calling of the Batsuit. Little did they know, you can take the man out of the bat, but you can never take the bat out of the man. Still no match for Bane, Bruce breaks Waylon free, who is turned into a giant mutated crocodile, and rides him out of the facility, showcasing one of the most badass pages I've ever seen. Just when I think Nick Dragotta can't surprise me, he kills it yet again. Something I neglected to glaze about this run are the title page spreads for every issue. They are so good. But where he really popped off is the Abomination title cards. Talk about sauce. Gotta appreciate the arts. Anyway, Bane beats the dog shit out of Bruce's friends. This is where we start to see that deconstruction of the support system Bruce has built up to this point. Bane breaks Bruce's friends down in the most brutal ways possible that will set them on the path to becoming the villains we know them for, all while holding a deep-rooted hatred for a friend who put them in this situation. We also see the return of Selina Kyle, world-class renowned thief to many, lover and friend to Bruce Wayne. I enjoyed their chemistry shown here and in the flashback scenes I'll discuss more later. The will they won't they nature of their mainline counterparts is cute. And it is fun to poke around at the idea of Bruce choosing a life with Selina over being Batman. But I find them being romantic while knowing what really drives them in their life is their goal much more endearing. Scott Snyder actually touches on that during an interview he did with The Beat, discussing the issues he had in the past regarding Bruce and Selina's relationship, and how Absolute Batman seeks to deepen that relationship by having them meet in their more formative years.
What's interesting to me about this universe is that his bond with Selina runs a lot deeper. They go all the way back to childhood together. She's his first, girlfriend. There's a much longer and deeper relationship based on the amount of time that they've known each other, and that lends itself to different permutations in the present than I would have been able to kind of wrap my head around in the main universe.
The final confrontation between Bane and Batman is incredibly epic. Bruce challenges him to a one-on-one duel, broadcasting a message throughout Gotham about Arc M and how Gotham's elite have sold out its own citizens. Utilizing the help of the Red Hood gang and Harley Quinn,
I'll be crying if I look like that too, bro. bro. That's fucked up what they be doing to y'all.
This speech is iconic and will go down as a shining example of what this story means. A man on a mission to protect the innocent from the powerful, the wealthy, and using every tool in his arsenal to do so, all while looking as badass as possible. Within the walls of an arena, Bruce and Bane face off not only for Gotham's soul, but for Bruce's soul as well. And our boy Batman has some tricks up his sleeve. There is an ongoing flashback playing in the backdrop during this arc, detailing Waylon and Bruce's relationship as Waylon prepares to fight one of the best boxers in Gotham. You get plenty of context for the kind of friendship Bruce had with Waylon and the romance he has with Selina, all before picking up the mantle of the Batman. It's a very personal story about having faith in your friends and standing up against what seems like impossible odds. These flashback sections are here throughout the narrative and originally felt like they were just here to give some character context, but boy do they take off during the final battle with Bane. Waylon goes toe-to-toe with Bibbo while Bruce drops a building on Bane and Alfred hits him with his car. Then Killer Croc enters the fray and past Bruce pulls through in believing in his friend. It reminds me of the Kakashi Obito scenes from Naruto. It's very battle shonen in the best way possible. This is genuinely one of my favorite fights I've read in a comic so far, and I would be good in putting it up there with some of my all-timers. Bat and friends outsmart Bane by overloading his body with the venom Bane put into Bruce back in Arc M, sending him packing in a mountain of human sludge. And even though this may not be the end for Bane, the dream he had with a life away from the Joker with his family just went up in fire and ash.
You keep dancing with the devil. One day he's gonna follow you home.
Following the defeat of Bane at the hands of Absolute Batman, it's time to peer under the bed to find the monster lurking in the dark. In pretty much every interview I've read with Scott Snyder, he hammers home the fundamental aspect of Absolute Batman being removed from the concept of wealth and status.
Bruce in the main universe, when he shows up, he's a figure of power. He has the reason. It's his amazing determination. It's his skill set. It's all the techniques and the different aspects of his superhero perfection that he's picked up in all these different places around the world. But part of it is also money. You understand that you're up against something that is also systemically powerful. He has wealth, whoever Batman is. He's got better shit than you have. So for this Batman, he's going, all of that is inverted, where he doesn't have any of that stuff, and he's going up against people that have a lot more than him.
What if Batman, instead of being a part of the system and having the resources that Bruce Wayne does, came from a working class background? What if he comes up in a world like today, where wealth is even more stratified, where the generational billionaires are often the people that seem to be antagonistic to the rest of us?
This Bruce plays the inverse of his mainline counterpart by standing up against the true criminals and villains of the modern day, oligarchs and the uber wealthy. Where mainline Bruce uses his resources for good to create order in a lawless city, Absolute Bruce uses chaos and disruption to break down the systems that are causing the issues we face. So the natural next question would be, what does that mean for the Joker? The inverse to Batman's entire ideology. If mainline Joker represents breaking down order and bringing chaos to the innocent, the inverse would use the systems at his disposal to spread evil as far-reaching as he can. Enter Jack Grimm, Absolute Joker. The man in white has been pulling the strings since the very beginning, all the way back in issue 1 where he made his shrouded appearance. His influence would be felt throughout the rest of the narrative, always watching, always observing, always scheming. And Bruce had interfered with Jack's plans one too many times. Alfred decided to tell Bruce everything he knew about the man in white. Issue 15 goes over the origin story of Jack Grimm, one of the wealthiest men in the world with all the resources, connections, and training anyone could ask for. The way the issue is constructed is hypnotic. Alfred tells the story of Jack Grimm and the Grimm family 3 different times. The first reads like a documentary on the rise of a great entertainment network family. The second focuses on the greed, dirty tricks, sleight of hand, and playing both sides of the fence to obtain more and more wealth. Finally, the story turns darker, twisted. Details of using child cells to maintain one's youth, weapons of mass destruction, toxins that induce laughter as they kill created in secret, kidnapping people and hunting them for sport. Tale of a horrific demon who laughs in the dark, walking among us, or so the story says. And now he has his sights on Batman. I really like how Jack is drawn here, literally looking like an evil version of mainline Bruce Wayne. There have been a few different depictions of Jack Grimm from different artists, so I'm unsure if his design is locked down or if the different versions play into the unknowable nature of the Joker, but issue 15 has the best design by far, with his suit, the butler, and the Batcave curving into a red smile. We also get information on Jack in the Arkham special issue that details the founding of Arkham Asylum and how it would become Arkham. The final words of warning from Amadeus Arkham about the child who would possibly grow up to be the Joker. It also sets up what will be the next challenge for Bruce to face as Jack releases Poison Ivy and Man-Bat into the city of Gotham. Absolute Deathstroke is also here to make an appearance, and goddamn does that nigga got that shit on.
I think this might be an attempt to mystify the origins of the Joker as we've seen in the past, using varied origins for him, and the different art styles may be intentional to do so, but it's hard to tell.
But for now, that is the story of how Jack Grimm came to be and how he now has his full attention on the Bat and his belfry. Meanwhile, our boy Bruce is having a rough go of it. On top of Absolute Poison Ivy making her appearance in the heart of Gotham City, I unfortunately am starting to have flashbacks to Resident Evil Village in regards to Ivy. Bruce's relationship with everyone and everything starts to crumble. If the core of this story is to ask the question, who is Batman? Who is Bruce Wayne? I think it's only fitting to place that question in the forefront of our protagonist as well. His role as Batman has given the city something to believe in, something to cheer on, but it has also caused harm to the people he loves and is driving a wedge into the relationships he's built. None of his friends will see him. The city has fallen under martial law. Not even Joe Chill will come out to face him like he's done for years. The last place Bruce would go to feel like home has now changed in front of his eyes. I haven't spoken much about Bruce's relationship with his mother, Martha Wayne. I'm planning to save it once we get more information on her backstory, since we're starting to peel back the curtain with the introduction to this version of the Court of Owls. But I will say it is refreshing to see Bruce have a relationship at all with one of his parents, and you can tell how much they love each other. This woman has been through a lot, and it can be difficult to reach a child who is holding on to so much pain inside, no matter what you do. As someone who lost my mother growing up, moments with these two characters together is very heartwarming. But it's clear from this moment on, things will not be the same. Things are changing. Bruce is changing, and he's not sure if it's for the better. Batman vs. Poison Ivy is brief, but layered in its relation to the current ethos of the story. The need for change, to evolve into something new, to be the person you need to be for the future. Bruce and Gordon have a heart-to-heart about what Bruce has been up to after Gordon reveals he knows Bruce is Batman. He does it in like a really hilarious way because, yeah dude, no one else in the city is built like you, bro. It could only be you in that suit. Gordon tells him that it's important to remember your roots as you grow. Nurturing them is how you find your way. But at this moment, Bruce sees his roots as rotten, and the only way forward might be to cut them loose. It's giving Peter's conflict in Spider-Man 2, where the double life of a superhero has become too much and it's time for the hero to decide what's important. Where Peter decided to put the mask down, Bruce straps it on tighter. The final page in issue 18 is perfect. It's a beautiful illustration of where Bruce is mentally, deleting his mother's message as if to cut off the last piece holding him back from committing to the Bat.
Where do we go from here? Who knows, but it's not looking great for your boy. One second. Okay. Give me a second. I need to get something. Okay, all right. Issue 19. Let's see what all the hype is about. What the fuck is he talking about?
5 minutes later.
Oh my.
I'm saving the discussion for issue 16, the crossover issue with Absolute Wonder Woman, till I get to talking about Diana's run of comics, which are amazing. This issue does explain how Bruce is able to turn Wayland back to normal, but the core of it focuses on Bruce and Diana's dynamic, so I want to talk about her more in depth before I cover this. But regardless,
all of the pieces are coming together for an amazing next section of this story, and I cannot wait to see what they have next for us in store.
Batman is amazing. It's loud, it's edgy, it's bombastic, it's terrifying, it's inspiring, it's badass. It's a shining example of how to take an IP with decades of mythos and create something that's new, refreshing. I hope I was able to illustrate why you should be reading Absolute Batman right now. There will never be a substitute for going on this wild adventure for yourself.
But I want to dig a little deeper and explore why Absolute Batman truly is a masterpiece to me. And it hinges on two reasons. First being the Absolute Batman Annual.
Written and illustrated by Daniel Warren Johnson, it is one of the most important pieces of Absolute Batman media out there. Probably one of the most important pieces of Batman media ever. Detailing Bruce venturing to the outskirts of Gotham, to a town left destitute by a corporation that promised growth, wages, and prosperity, who then left before completing a project that would have helped the community greatly. The people here, along with many migrants passing through, are scared, tired, and some of them are angry. It explores the real monsters that Absolute Bruce faces.
Not only the corruption and greed of the 1% that leaves people with nothing and no one to protect them. Not only superhumans and monsters to deal with,
but also the villains who arise from human fear and point that anger at the innocent. White supremacists, the police system, monsters who use violence on the defenseless and twist the minds of the youth to their cause. Batman is here to fight against it all. It also explores the toll it takes to fight against this kind of enemy, to stand strong, to not have all the answers, to feel like the fight is never ending since you're battling the nature of other humans. Is the violence that Bruce hurls back at the oppressors the right answer? Is it fair that this boy who was traumatized by a mass shooting should have to stand in the line of fire of evils in this bleak world? Is the priest correct in his approach, attempting to stop the violence altogether while others use it to their advantage? Who really knows in the end, but we all have to try. It is a story about why we need heroes in reality, why we need them for what we face today.
As a Black American myself, I'm watching my country turn to fascism by the second. People who are just trying to make a way for themselves are being persecuted. Those who feel destitute and left alone by their government turning to violence. And many people looking to turn that anger for their own personal gain are propping up everywhere. I can't help but wish that we had heroes like Absolute Batman out there. But he also gives me hope. In his interview with DC, Scott Snyder talks about his experience with writing Batman over the years and what perspective he wanted to bring to Absolute Batman.
The whole time I wrote Batman, it was very much about my fears, about myself, about the world as I saw it, for my kids. It was very sort of writing yourself into the book. I didn't have a lot of time to sit back and think about the book either. It was very instinctual. This is the world that my kids face, and I want him to make them brave in the face of the things that they're challenged by. I want this Batman to make my kids brave in the face of the things they're afraid of. He's written as one of them. He's inspired by them.
I believe the same way Batman throughout my life has been a symbol that inspires others to stand up for themselves. Absolute Batman inspires people to stand up for others. That the powers that be aren't so big, aren't so terrifying, that they can be beaten if you believe in the force of good inside you.
As I said at the beginning, the Death of the Family story was great, but it didn't push me further past any of the other stories that were in that box all those years ago, like the New 52 stuff, the Rebirth stuff, the random Marvel comics that were sprinkled in there. Sure, I watched some content creators on comics. Sure, I went to go see some comic book movies. Not to say that those things weren't important and could have gotten me into comics or didn't get others into comics. It just wasn't enough for me. But now, with the Absolute run, I can't stop reading this stuff. I go to my local comic book store anytime there's a new drop. I've caught up on all of the Absolute runs. I'm going through Superman and Batman core stories that are recommended to me. I'm branching out into other stories just based on how cool the cover is. I feel like I found something that I've been missing this entire time from my nerd obsessions. I feel right at home.
Scott Snyder's approach to not only Absolute Batman, but the Absolute run as a whole is to show that comics are better than they've ever been. In many of the interviews he's done, he stresses how important this moment in time is for comics.
To prove that in the age where manga, video games, and film are dominating the storytelling landscape, that comics are part of that conversation. That there's magic in these monthly releases, and he's not wrong. Not only has the fanfare for these series been absolutely insane, but people that I know personally are getting into comics. People I've known for years are talking about comics in ways I've never heard before.
A whole new world has been opened to me and many others because of the hard work, dedication, and talent put forth by Scott Snyder, no relation, and his amazing team of writers, artists, colorists, letterists, editors, and execs.
Absolute Batman isn't just a look into who Batman is at his core. It's also a metaphor for the evolution of comics in the modern age. That newer, younger, more aggressive stories can rise to the top along with the mountain of legacy that exists. Comics aren't dead. They're more alive than they've ever been. I want to take a moment to say thank you. Thank you to all the amazing talent that made the stories that I'm currently enjoying. Thank you to the history of creators that got us to where we are now. Thank you to you watching this video right now. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope to make more comic book videos like this one for you in the future. And lastly, I want to say thank you to Scott Snyder. I would not be here talking about this story I love so much if it wasn't for you. You made Death of the Family that made me interested in the medium of comics, and you made Absolute Batman that got me to be in love with it. I'm glad that you were the one to make this story, because Absolute Batman is a masterpiece.